Hey guys, today let's talk sleep. So, if we look at the board, there's just a couple highlighted topics that we're going to look at. Same topics that you'll see in the outline that we sent earlier this week. But basically, today's we're going to shoot for about a 10-minute talk, just kind of go overviewing exactly what sleep is, break down some of the stages, break down exactly kind of why some of these stages are important, and then actually talk a little bit about the health risks that come with not sleeping enough and not having enough quality sleep. Then obviously go into some good stuff that I think you guys will really like, is some ways in which we can improve our sleep quality, our sleep efficiency. So to get started, sleep stages. As you see on the Whoop, after you wake up from the day, you can press your sleep. Maybe it was 7 hours, and you can press that, and then it will show these stages, and it says light, it says deep, and it says REM, which is rapid eye movement. So first off, we'll kind of look at each stage. I'll tell you what it is, and then we'll kind of go into the importance to it and how to improve it and why we want it. So awake, you're always going to have some awake. You're never going to sleep perfectly 0 minutes awake. I would say a lot of that, you'll see is your sleep efficiency on the Whoop app, and you'll see that I would say trying to shoot for 90% above would be a great thing to do. And as you get older, they say your efficiency gets a little worse, but I say let's try to push that and not let that happen. But they usually say that the younger you are, you have usually better efficiency. But again, I think we can work on improving that, because that's something that, you want to be efficient when you sleep. If we want to be getting at least 7-8 hours of full sleep, we might need to be in bed 9 hours, 10 hours if we don't have good sleep efficiency. So it's a way in which we can be more efficient, more productive with our time. But awake is something that we want it to be a lower number, so maybe below an hour. Would be something to shoot for, or maybe even below. Some of us might have higher efficiencies, maybe below 30 minutes. So moving on, and then you'll have your light sleep, all right? So you look at light sleep and you think, light sleep's gonna be it's gonna be a lot of what the sleep, your overall sleep hours is gonna entail. They say slow wave, deep, and REM should roughly be 23% or so a REM, 22% of our overall sleep is going to be deep. So you can then think, roughly 50% or more is going to be, 50% or so at light, And usually we like to say, in that category, if you look at your 7 hours, you roughly might need 90-ish minutes of REM, and roughly similar 90-ish minutes of deep. So to go into more of that here in a second, but going from light, roughly half of your sleep is going to be there, and then you look at deep. All right, so light sleep is right before we go into our deep phase and then into our REM. So it's kind of in that cycle format. We didn't talk about that, but that's something you think. We did it in that order, as it's literally you go into your awake, then you go into light sleep, then you go into deep sleep, then you go into REM, and then you repeat these cycles. And you see, 3 to 5 complete sleep cycles a night is going to usually provide you that restorative sleep. These percentages that we were talking about, 23% of REM of your overall sleep should be REM, so 90-ish minutes, and then deep should be roughly very similar. All right, so why do we want this? All right, slow, deep wave sleep, that's when we're physically repairing our body. It's cellular regeneration of our tissues. If we're strength training a lot or weightlifting, you might see that go up. But even our older clients, we always like to think like we want to just generally moving and being more active and walking and adding in some cardiovascular stimulus. It's going to cause that body to have to go into that deeper stage of sleep, which is important because it produces a lot of our testosterone and a lot of our HGH, which helps us with anti-aging. It helps us feel better. It helps us with moods. It's really everything. So that's why deep sleep is very important. So if you weren't getting your 22% of deep sleep for 90-ish minutes or so, well, then we could look for tactics and ways in which we could improve that. And maybe it's adding some strength training. Maybe it's just increasing your activity levels. Maybe it's adding some cold exposures or cold plunges, or eating or fasting a certain way to allow the body to go into these natural stages. But really cool ways to kind of think that there is a deeper component to it at a physiological level that you need. Going into REM sleep, another thing. REM, what is that? Well, that's more of your mental cognitive abilities. You're cleaning up your brain. You're transferring a lot of your short-term memory loss into long-term memory. So you can see it's very important in our focus. It's very important with our alertness. So again, if you're not getting enough REM each night, well, basically you're not cleaning up your brain. You're not cleaning up your ability and repairing it. So you're not going in at a fully charged ability to focus, to work, to produce. to really live your life. So you can see how you do that for years on years on years. That's how you get a lot of these risks. And just jumping into this, like a lot of these risks and these health problems, cancer, cardiovascular problems, brain problems, like a lot of people believe that these problems are a result of poor sleep quality. And really, it's like, I think people don't understand. It's like, oh, I gotta lose weight, I gotta eat better. It's like, a lot of people don't understand that if you just get to where you're sleeping 7 to 8 hours of really sound sleep, in which you're hitting your ratios of REM deep, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna look better. You're gonna feel better because your body's naturally going to be in a good rhythmic place. It's gonna be working on all cylinders. Everything's gonna be doing its job. Nothing's gonna not be working, so causing stress in other areas. So you can see how this is a fun category. By some people, we've literally just helped them with their sleep, and then boom, they lose weight, they have better mood, they feel better, their immune system response is so much better, they don't get sick often. So you can see how it becomes a powerful asset. And some of these things I'll listen to you, not to scare you, but to bring awareness of like, hey, you don't sleep well, you sleep poorly for years on years, or you just have some couple nights in a row. And that's what's cool about the Whoop now, is you'll be able to see you have a couple poor sleep nights in a row, you're gonna see a red. And that's just an awareness. That doesn't mean we can't survive, but it means like, hey, let's not keep doing this. Let's learn from this. If not, you start to have anxiety. You start to have depression. What did we say? Like, when you have good REM, what are you doing? You're cleaning up your cognitive abilities. You're cleaning up your brain. You're making it feel good. When you wake up with full REM, you feel good. Like the birds are chirping. But the opposite of that is anxiety. You wake up a little anxious. You wake up a little, you don't feel as good. Eventually your moods go down, all right? So it's the exact opposite. So you can think, man, just figuring out how to get better there, could really improve a lot of things in my life. And then you look at obesity, diabetes, another thing. They believe that a lot of times when you're lacking sleep, you're eventually, your hormones are gonna be off. You're not gonna get as much deep, you're not gonna get as much REM, because again, we need 3 to 5 cycles, and it doesn't say here is that each cycle is roughly, it could be anywhere from 90 minutes to longer. So like if you're going through these cycles, you can see 90 minutes to 120, like we need to accumulate, at least 7 hours. If we're not getting there, there's no chance that we're gonna get enough REM, because it takes that much time for go through a wave, light, slow wave, deep, REM, like it's cycles and it takes time to go through it. So again, if you're getting under 7 hours of sleep, you're immediately putting yourself in a disadvantage to be healthy and to be strong and to remain healthy, especially in these times, which, are weird and uncertainty. There's viruses and things around there. So the one thing we want to do is take care of ourselves. So sleep, big importance. You see some of the other things that I think people don't understand in the sleep categories, and they do understand it, but they just don't put enough reverence of like, it doesn't matter how much you train. Like, and that's what I think the Whoop is good at, and having something to track you 24/7 is you can't outrun like some of these diseases and things. Like, you could be the fittest guy in the world, I guess. Like, I run every day. I don't know how I have heart problems. It's because you're not doing the other side of things, and that's taking care of your sleep and recharging. So it's almost more important to just sleep well, and then start adding some training, because if you're just training and sleeping 5 hours a day, you're burning the candle on both ends, and eventually things are going to go wrong. You're going to have some physiological disadvantages. You're going to have some cardiovascular problems. You're going to be the fitness guy, the fit 50-year-old running down, Bayshore Boulevard, and he's going to have the heart attack and be like, I don't know how it happened, but I guarantee you look back at their sleep data and he's been sleeping bad for 20 years. So I say those things, to motivate people to be like, you focus on that, and I guarantee that's going to improve. Going back into tips for getting more REM, more deep sleeps are physiological repair, REMs are mental. So we'll chew on a little bit of mental, REM. So rapid eye movement, you can see that a lot of times you'll be dreaming a lot more during that state. But ways to improve REM is usually by calming your system down. So if you can say like, usually, you see right here, it says darker room equals better. Like, all right, let's look at the room itself, your bedroom, all right? It should be for sleeping only. It should not be for, looking at bills, looking on your phone, like, watching TV. It's tough to do, but like a discipline to use to take all the electronics and to get them out of your room and only use it for sleeping. You have other rooms in the house, that's where you can do all your other activities. But if you just use it for sleeping, you can build it into like a perfect sanctuary to fall asleep, in a good amount of time and stay asleep, which is very important, because usually people have problems falling asleep or staying asleep. All right, so usually falling asleep is maybe they might be lacking a melatonin production. That's the body's natural way to basically, fall into a sleep cycle. And a lot of times blue light, which is from your electronics, any sort of light, any sort of electronic light, blue light stimulates the opposite. It actually keeps us alert. So if you're on your phone late at night without any sort of protection, yeah, iPhone has that little protection, but it doesn't do its justice. all right, you need to do something more, and that's why you can easily find a very affordable $10, $20 pair of blue light glasses that you could use to kind of help you if you need to do that. But having a darker room is going to stimulate the body to go to sleep, to rest. So that's one way to stay asleep, but also get to sleep faster. Also, like the temperature gauge. You know, I'm always arguing with my wife, she wants it warmer, I want it colder, but at the end of the day, they say, national studies say that 68 degrees is the best temperature that a human sleeps in. All right, so I think at my house, I can get it all the way to about 70 before I get, before I, make everyone mad. But I think in general, you gotta think like cooler is better. Oh, I'm cold at night. It's like, but you'll stay asleep longer. The body's used to that. It'll use its self-governing system to kind of put it in a state where it's gonna stay into a deeper state. It's gonna get into that more restful sleep, and then it's gonna improve things for the better. So you don't wanna be down the opposite end where you're hot, or like when we talked about, if you eat too late at night, it's gonna kind of ruin up some of the sleep because your body's gonna basically be digesting the food, all right? And that takes 90 minutes, a couple hours to do, and it needs water and hydration to do that, which usually wakes you up because you're hot, and you're like, man, I'm thirsty, and then you wake up, and then who knows if you're gonna get back into these sleep cycles, all right? And that's why it's so important to kind of really focus on sleep and really make sure that you commit to the time there. You get a consistent schedule, like I'm gonna go to bed between 1 to 2 hours every night, and I'm gonna wake up between 1 and 2 hours every day. And you start to do that, you build rhythm, you build consistency in your routine, and next thing you know, it's like, man, I go to bed between 10 and 11 each night, I wake up between 7 and 8 each day, and the body gets used to that. And the more you do that, the more like, hey, 10:30 comes around, your body's almost like, starts to calm down, you almost build that rhythm into the body. Next thing you know, you fall asleep good, your body gets used to going to bed, staying asleep, and it just creates this really good, consistent routine in which you become efficient. Everything about the sleep kind of improves. So really cool way in which you do that. You see a used bed for sleeping that we just discussed about. No caffeine, we haven't really talked about that. But again, we like to have no caffeine after 12 at lunchtime. And you're like, what do you mean? Because there's half-lights, not to get too much into the caffeine and how it's breakdown in the body, but basically it stays around a little bit. It's not just in your system and out. It might be in there for 8 to 12 hours, all right, depending on how much activity you've had. So you can think that if you're having an afternoon soda, which you shouldn't have, let's choose water, but if you're drinking coffee late, like you're putting yourself in a really tough position to be able to wind down. And a lot of times you'll see that just being wound up with that caffeine late at night, it's going to take away our REM, because what is REM? REM is our ability to calm the mind. So if we have a lot of thoughts in our mind, if we're doing a million things because we're charged up, well, that's not going to let us go into a peaceful state and stay asleep. So that's something to kind of think about too. With the REM, which is a couple areas right away that you can improve REM. Reading 15 minutes before bed, maybe 10 to 15 pages, allows you to focus on one thought. All right, which allows you to kind of think about, kind of channeling your thoughts. Instead of thinking about a million, I'm going to focus on one. And next thing you know, you can kind of slowly fall into a sleep or a calm state. Yesterday over our Zoom phone call, we had one of our clients that said that she writes down, like she's got to write stuff down when she has these wild thoughts. So she uses a journal to kind of keep the journal close to your bed. So then at least you've written it down. You can kind of be like, all right, I'll remember that. I'll do it tomorrow. So those are just a few ways in which you can improve sleep. I think you heard the nutrition side, in which like trying not to eat within 2 hours of going to bed is important. Making sure you're hydrated, not drinking too much right before bed, but maybe during it, maybe before dinner, having a 16 to 24 ounces glass of water. After dinner, having the same. That's going to kind of boost that digestion. And then maybe drinking a glass of water or so within that hour or two before bed. It's going to allow you to basically get that food digesting, go through the process in which the temperature of the body is going to go up because you're digesting, and then allow the body to kind of go into that calm state right going into bed. So something you can easily do is kind of not eat too much food before bed, and kind of make sure that the food selection, as in next week we'll talk nutrition, the food selection is going to be important, but we'll go into that next week. So overall, sleep. I would say, if anything, if you were looking to improve your fitness, improve your immune system function, improve your ability to stay healthy, stay happy, keep everyone in the family strong, I think you've got to focus on sleep. You got to focus. That number one thing is, let's get my sleep right. So maybe we have that 30-minute routine in which we're winding the body down, we're taking the electronics out, we're reading, we're breathing, we're meditating. There's Calm apps. There's an app called Headspace that's cool, that has some like really nice little meditative ways where you can just push a 10-minute thing and then kind of walk you through ways of breathing. just ways to kind of get the system to go into a chiller state. So a lot of ways you can do it, build the routines, and then really now that you have this tracking system on you, every day is an experiment. You wake up, see where you're at, make sure the sleep's where it is, but then you learn about the body. Like, man, I remember for myself 3-4 years ago, I didn't get much REM or deep. I didn't get enough sleep. I was only sleeping like 5-6 hours. I was having too much caffeine. I was stressed. I wasn't training consistently, and I had 0 REM, 0 deep. And I was able to build that back up. But it takes your lifestyle, it takes your discipline, it takes eating right, but it takes sleeping right, it takes priorities, it takes, getting long enough sleep. It makes, really, you see that it's all in our control. If you create that ability to where your bedroom's in a perfect place, where now I start to sleep good, boom, now I start to prioritize. I need at least 7-8 hours of full sleep, not just in bed. Boom, you start to learn it. Next thing you know, you're not as sick, you're not as tired, you're ready to go. And you're ready to be productive and really get after it. So I think just short term, or long term, you look at it, it just takes you sitting back and being like, man, my room has a ton of windows, and man, I could put a black sheet over it. Or I could, get some drapes or something to do that. Oh man, I do have my electronics all over it. Oh, my room's actually super bright at night. I need to shut, my computer screen off. I need to do this or that. Man, I sleep in 74. I'm gonna try 72. Oh, I slept better. I got 20 more minutes of deep. Like, those are the things that you start to see. So don't use it as like, if you don't get, if you're sleeping 7 hours and you get 30 minutes of REM, that means that we have the ability to improve. And that's where you're like, all right, maybe I'll build my better routine. I won't use my electronics for bed. Boom. And then maybe like, all right, I only get 20 minutes of deep. Like, all right, that means we probably need to be a little more active. We need to go after things. Maybe we had some walks, runs, bikes, cycles, do some strength training, yoga, whatever it is to stimulate the body's need to move and recreate patterns, and then have to work to get them back to health. Would be good ways to do it. So overall, I think in general, we're always going to say 7 hours minimum of full sleep, not in bed. Full sleep is minimum. I'd shoot for 8, and really think about it. Use your bedroom to sleep, but think about sleep as being that factor. If you sleep well, then the training is going to come better. The focus, your mentality, like everything is going to fall into state. But you start to not sleep well, and when the chance you don't sleep long enough, you're immediately going to cause your system to be sick more. You're going to cause your system to be a little more stressed. Look at your depression, your anxiety, your risk for heart, eating bad, like it all just turns in. So just go after it, sleep well, and then from there, look at the strain. So at the end of the day, like, we're going to sleep 7-8 hours. We're going to get a little activation routine in at least 3, 4, 5 days a week. We're going to walk, try to do some daily stimulation with our cardiovascular work, get our strain up to 10, and next thing you know, things are putting in together. So to conclude, I appreciate you listening and hanging out with me during the sleep talk. And again, worst case, let's just put something on. We got the tracker. Let's try to grab that 7-8 hours of sleep, and let's try to we're gonna take control of our life a little bit more. And I think everyone's gonna see when you sleep better. Give yourself 2-3 weeks of these routines, and then tell me if you don't feel better. All right, we'll see ya.